What's up, everyone? Today I'm going to show you how to sharpen a mower blade, and it's really quite simple. You only need a couple of tools for this. It really helps if you have a breaker bar, if that's really stuck on there tight, the nut that keeps the blade on, and a file. But you can really use a power grinder if you'd like, or if you have power tools to get bolts off, more power to you. So first thing I like to do is check to make sure what side the gas tank is on. Flip the mower over to the opposite side of that so that way you don't spill gas. But in this case, I don't have any gas in it because it's been stored for the winter, so I'm going to tip it the direction opposite of where the oil fill tube actually is. This is a pretty simple procedure. This is the first step to sharpening a blade, is to get the blade off. Now it helps if you have a block of wood like this or something, just brace the blade so it doesn't spin. Otherwise you're holding onto it with your hand and you might cut yourself. So just be real careful with this. Helps if you wear gloves or something. Just be careful. This blade is so dull that it's not going to cut me anyway, so that's why I'm sharpening it. So we got it braced up against there. And this is a 1/2 inch breaker bar. Wasn't too bad. This typically gets tightened down to between 50 and 60 foot-pounds, so check your user manual for your mower to make sure that you're doing it at the correct torque, and use a torque wrench if you've got one just to put it back on. And this just has a crush washer, which I believe the manual says if you've got one of those, tighten it all the way down to 60. And while you're under here, take like a paint scraper or a wire brush or something, and you can just scrape off all the gunk that's stuck under here and just get this cleaned up really nicely before springtime use. Just clean the bottom of the deck off a little bit as best you can. So that's all there is to moving that. There's a brace. You can see how dull this really is. There's just not much to it. So we're going to get that in the bench vise, and we're going to file it down and try to get it as sharp as we possibly can. I should probably replace this blade this year. I'm probably going to do that because it's got some nicks in it that I'm not going to be able to get out. While we're under here, like I said, you can grab a scraper. Any scraper will do, and just kind of clean this out as best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just like to clean it up a little bit just so that way it's a little nicer when you start using it. And there's no chance of it getting clogged up. Like I said, you can wear gloves when you do this too. That's probably not a bad idea, but I didn't feel like putting them on today. Maybe I should have put gloves on. There's some oil leaking underneath here or something, or some grease. Nasty! Whatever. That's what soap is for. Not gonna kill you. Alright, let's flip this thing back over. I guess we'll leave it like that until we actually get the blade back on, so be back in a minute. Alright, and we're back with it at the bench vise. So what I'm going to do is grab my file, and I'll show you what angle we do this at. So you want to keep it at about 30 degrees, so that's what this is pre-sharpened at. So if you kind of look at how this is, it's not the most acute angle in the world, if it would be, it would dull really fast. So like a kitchen knife would probably be about 20 degrees. I think this is probably going to be about 30 to 35 degree sharpening angle. So the key to sharpening is to keep a consistent angle. So practice just a little bit, and what you want to do is just real carefully place the sharpener, kind of feel where it starts to bite in. If it's the wrong angle like this, it's not going to sound right, and it's going to cut just along the edge. It's not going to make it any sharper. It's just going to really make it dull. If you go too narrow like this angle, you're not hitting the blade edge. So it's just like sharpening a knife. You want to kind of ride the file up along until you kind of find that sweet spot. And apply consistent, even pressure across the whole blade edge. And a file only cuts in one direction, so you don't want to go back and forth like this. It's not going to do anything. You want to push. That's the cut direction. Doesn't do anything this way, but you can kind of ride the file against the blade just to keep your angle consistent. I find that kind of helps. So if you see me kind of sharpening like this, that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of just riding the edge like this. So we'll take it like this. And we keep going until it starts to get sharp, and you can kind of feel it with your fingertip. Just kind of run it along here. Just be careful once it gets sharp. You don't want to cut yourself, obviously. If you have nicks on the back side of the blade, you could kind of clean that edge up a little bit just by going like this with it. I like to do that just to kind of refine this if there's some nicks in there from hitting a stone or something. So you can kind of refine the back of it as well. And then, that kind of cleans this up a little bit nicely here. And then go back over to the front and keep continuing to sharpen. So I'm going to speed this up for you, otherwise it's going to be a very long video. Okay, so we're finally done sharpening, and the next thing you want to do is balance your blade. If you have one of those fancy blade balancer mechanisms, you can use that and basically just set it on something. You can just kind of spin it around, and this will tell you if one side you took too much metal off one side or the other. It's going to hang to the side like that, which you don't want that. You want it to be as balanced as possible when you put it back on your mower, otherwise it'll make your entire mower shake like mad. So what I like to do is I just take the bolt like that, give it a little spin, and you can kind of see this end is a little bit leaning off to the side. So I think I got to take a little bit extra weight off of here, just a tiny bit. It's not terrible. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it to be kind of close. So I might take a little bit off of this side here, and then we'll put it back on. Okay, got the torque wrench. Here's a top tip for you guys. Always store your torque wrench with the meter set all the way to the bottom. You don't want to have it torqued up. Also, never loosen bolts with your torque wrench. Use your breaker bar for that. So what we're going to do is set this to 60 foot-pounds, which is right about there. Okay. 60 foot-pounds. Gotta make sure we install this the correct way. That would be upside down. We don't want to do that, because it cuts on the bottom side, and this is kind of shaped so that way it kind of lifts up. So that is the way we want it. course, I think this type you can only put it on one way because it's got the particular bracket. Some mowers are different than others. You'll have maybe a little bit of a different blade setup or something. Some mowers, like the Honda mowers, they actually have a dual blade setup where it's two blades that kind of oppose each other. You get a nice clean cut with that, but you know, that's double the blades that you actually have to sharpen as well. So a lot of people keep a second blade on hand just for, you know, a good blade for cutting grass and a kind of a fall and spring cleanup blade that they don't care about. So, same thing as before, we're just gonna put that block of wood there. "60 foot-pounds, which is kind of a lot. It's tighter than you think it is, so if you don't have one of these, just tighten it up until it's real good and snug. There we go. And that's all there is to it. Another safety thing I forgot to tell you guys, since I don't have any gas in it, it's okay. And it's been sitting all winter, I know it's not going to start, but before you do this, pull the spark plug off. I forgot to do that before I started, but I know it's not going to start. So if you want to pull the spark plug off before you start, that's just a good safety measure. I should have mentioned that when I started, but pull the spark plug boot off before you start. Safety first, guys. So anyway, that should be just about it. This is a good, cheap, free way to keep your grass healthy and growing tall, and it looks a lot better whenever you have a sharp blade. So anyway, that's it for today. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Have a great day. Until next time.